And here we are back at the Church of the Muzzle Flash. My name's Ray Stoner. Covering a wide variety of subjects that we cover here at the church. Today we're going to be talking about weights and measures. Now, nobody gives a lot of thought to weights and measures because nobody knows what they're weighing or measuring anymore. Everything's digital. It's marked on the cans. You're getting so many grams. You're getting so many of this. You're getting so many of that. What are we talking about? Well, we used to know. A pound used to be a pound the world round. And what that meant was you had 16 ounces in a pound. Today, you've got liters, you've got a whole metric system. No one knows or understands exactly what we have anymore because the old people were all taught everything in feet, in inches, and pounds, and ounces, and tons. Today we're talking kilograms and other things, so the older people like myself have no idea what they're talking about. And the young people no longer understand what we're talking about because the schools don't teach them weights and measures anymore according to the English standards. The arithmetic is set up in such a way that if you don't use the English weights and measures and those numbers, then none of the ensuing ties work. And nobody seems to understand that because they're of the opinion that the meter, having been just redesigned in the 1700s, is the correct measure, when in actuality it isn't. As I said, once a pound was a pound the world round, no longer is that the case. But in the book of Leib, this is all covered in Deuteronomy 25, verses 13 through 16. It tells you that if you don't have a standard set of weights and measures in your bag, then you are an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. Another thing that it tells you in the book is that you're also an abomination in the eyes of the Lord if you're short weighing or short selling everybody. Now, in the ancient times, they got around this by everybody getting a little bit more when they bought something. If you got a pound, you got a little bit more. If you got a dozen, you got 13. That was called a baker's dozen. Consequently, if there was a shortage anywhere, there was usually no complaints about it because the person had been getting a little bit more than what they had been paying for in the past, and consequently there was no argument as to whether you were getting a fair value for your money. No longer is that the case. Somewhere along the line, someone figured out that, well, if we don't give them exactly what we're telling them we're giving them, then that's more in our pockets. So what they started to do is they started short weighing everything. When you used to buy steel or a lot of other fabricated materials, everything was always rolled a little bit over gauge in order that the material was a little bit stronger than what the specifications were that were set down by the specification boards. Consequently, you didn't have metal failures, you didn't have screw failures, you didn't have failures in the actual structure of the commodity that you were buying. Well, as I said, what they started to do is they started shorting everything. So you got a bottle of olives. It was this big. It had so many olives in it. Everything was fine. Well, then somebody decided, well, if we take one olive out and we make 1,000 jars, that gives us 1,000 extra olives that we can put in other jars, and that's more money in our pocket. Well, they took out one olive, and then they took out another olive, and then pretty soon they had taken out 4 or 5 olives, but now the jar was only 7/8 or 3/4 full. So what did they do? Being a very ingenious people, what they did is they made the containers smaller and charged more money, and all those olives that they had already screwed you out of, they kept for themselves. And this is where we are today. If you go into the supermarket and you look, you buy coffee, you buy commodities in what used to be pound cans. They're now marked in metric measures. And when you do the conversion, A 3-pound can is only 2.8 or 2.7 of something. Of what? No one knows, but the weights aren't right. So right off the bat, you're not getting equal value for the dollars or the money that you're giving for the product because you're paying more than what you're getting for. How did this all come about? Well, it started right in the beginning, to be perfectly honest with you, because somewhere when these systems were set up, it was discovered that if you bought at one weight and sold at another, you would automatically be able to ensure yourself a profit without actually doing anything. So when you bought gold, a troy ounce of gold contains 480 grains of gold, which also just happens to be the height of the Great Pyramid in feet. So all these measures are intertwined with the ancient megalithic structures and our measuring system. However, they came up with another ounce, which was called an Avogadropolis ounce, and it contained 437.5 grains in it. So if you take 437.5 and subtract it from 480, you wind up getting shorted 42.5 grains for each ounce of gold that you buy. This is called, a sale or a commodity. This is the brokerage amount that they do, because when they sell you something, they sell it to you at an Avogadropolis ounce. And see, I've even got that mixed up. When they sell you something, they sell it to you as a troy ounce, and then when they give it to you, it's an Avogadropolis ounce, which is the 437.5. So immediately you're shorted. If you take it in and you sell it and you have a troy ounce, they pay you for an Avogadropolis ounce, and they pick up 42.5 grains in each transaction. Well, in ancient times, the people that did this, in the figuring and the calculations and the conversions of these numbers, understood that somebody was getting screwed here. So what they did is they found another way to do this, and when they struck the coins, we will say, were each an ounce. But in order to be able to get what became known as seigniorage, which is the grain weight that the king was entitled to for putting forth the coin for you to use, they put the grooves on the exterior of the coin, so that if you had an ounce, when they put those grooves in, if the ounce was supposed to contain 480 grains, it only contained 437.5, and consequently, you were shortchanged right off the bat. Now, this also applies to the feet and the inches and the pounds, because you buy fabric in yards, you buy liquids in gallons. No longer. Today, everything is according to metrics, but they fit them in the old containers in order to give you the impression that you're getting a pound the world round the way it used to be, but in actuality, you're not getting a pound. You're getting a pound that's less than a pound. Now, not only are the weights different and coming in the same size containers, but what are you actually purchasing? In the material that you're buying, you have additives, you have preservatives, you have artificial colors. All of these things change the weight of the material that you're buying. And interestingly enough, they also adulterate the product that you're purchasing. Why are we putting corn sugar in everything? Why are we putting fillers in everything? This is the way we do business. Well, if this is the way we do business, and food colors, A and B, artificial colors and sweeteners like NutraSweet, we add chlorine and fluorine to the liquids. If these things are all debilitative to us, why are we allowing this to be done?